All right, so I want you to forget everything you might remember about Shakespeare's Julius Caesar from school. Seriously, because today we're not looking at it as a piece of literature. We are treating it as a raw, timeless, and brutal case study in political power. Let's open up the playbook.
This right here, this is the central question, the beating heart of the entire play. And you know what? It feels just as relevant today as it did in ancient Rome. It forces us into this really uncomfortable corner, thinking about power, about principles, and about the real price of freedom.
Because that's what it is. If you look underneath all the poetry and the togas, what you find is a surprisingly raw, step-by-step guide to staging a coup. And maybe more importantly, it's a huge cautionary tale about what happens in those critical moments right after the deed is done.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Part 1. The political powder keg. Rome is not a happy place. It's a republic that is teetering right on the edge of a cliff, and pretty much all of that tension, all of that anxiety is focused on one single, larger-than-life figure.
And this is the essential crack running right through Roman society. On one side, you have the political elite, the senators. They look at Caesar and they see a would-be king, someone whose ambition is going to destroy everything the republic stands for. But the public, the regular people, they see a strong leader who brings stability and wins wars. The entire society is basically split between the fear of tyranny and the fear of chaos. And that crack, that's exactly what the conspirators are about to exploit.
So, with the city completely divided, we get to part 2, an honorable betrayal. A group of powerful senators decide that talking is over, it's not enough. They come to believe that to save the republic, its greatest and most popular man has to die.
Now, to really get what happens next, we have to see these guys the way they saw themselves. They weren't villains in their own story. Oh no, they were patriots. They saw themselves as political surgeons, cutting out a cancer to save the body of Rome. And their leader, Brutus, is seen as the most honorable man in the city, which gives their plot this powerful and incredibly dangerous sense of legitimacy. And things move fast. I mean, really fast. What starts out as just whispers in back rooms quickly becomes a deadly, concrete plan as soon as Brutus is on board. On the Ides of March, they make their move. They corner Caesar, not in some dark alley, but at his place of work, the Senate, and a political dispute ends in a bloody, coordinated assassination. And Caesar's last words, they aren't a curse. They're just a question, filled with absolute shock. You too, Brutus? In that one instant, he realizes that his trusted friend, the man he looked up to, has just delivered one of the killing blows. The political has just become deeply, horribly personal. All right, on to part 3, the War of Words. Now, with Caesar dead, the conspirators think they've won, mission accomplished. But they have made a fatal, fatal error. They killed the man, sure, but they didn't kill the idea of him. And now, the fight moves from the floor of the Senate out into the public square. This is where the whole playbook just flips. The physical part of the coup is done, but the psychological one, it's just getting started. Because whoever controls the story of why Caesar died is the person who's going to control Rome. And this is the main event. First, Brutus gets up and gives a very calm, very logical speech. He appeals to the crowd's sense of honor, explaining that the assassination was a sad necessity, all for the good of Rome. And you know what? It almost works. But then Mark Antony takes the stage, and he doesn't counter with logic. He completely bypasses their brains and goes straight for their hearts, using sarcasm, emotion, props like Caesar's will, and then dramatically revealing his bloody corpse. He turns their reason into pure rage. And the effect is just instantaneous, and it is terrifying. The same citizens who were just cheering for Brutus a minute ago are now screaming for the conspirators' blood. Antony has weaponized their grief and basically just unleashed total chaos on the city. The War of Words has just ignited a very, very real civil war. So that brings us to the final act, part 4, the price of principle. The conspirators, they acted on what they genuinely saw as a noble idea. But as we're about to see, the result was the exact, disastrous opposite of what they intended. I mean, just look at this catastrophic chain of events. The goal, step 1, save the Republic. But step 2, they immediately lose the PR battle to Antony, which leads directly to step 3, a horrific civil war that tears Rome apart. And the final outcome of that war? Step 4, they created a power vacuum that was filled by a new, all-powerful emperor. They destroyed the very thing they killed to protect.
In that incredible speech, Antony says this famous line, and it basically becomes a grim prophecy for the rest of the play. The conspirators' supposedly good intentions, their desire to save the Republic, are completely buried and forgotten. But the evil of their act, the violence, the chaos, the civil war, that lives on, and it reshapes the entire world.
So it all boils down to this one staggering piece of irony. In their attempt to stop one man from becoming a king, the conspirators unleashed so much chaos that it led directly to the creation of an empire. They literally became the architects of the exact future they were trying to prevent.
Which leaves us right back where we started. But now the question feels so much heavier. Brutus was so certain he was acting for the greater good, but his actions led to absolute ruin. It forces us to ask ourselves, when any small group of people decides to use violence for a political ideal, how can they ever be truly sure that they're the heroes, and not just the authors of the next chapter in a long, bloody cycle of chaos?